What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Tuesday here from Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis. The sheriff over my right-hand shoulder there, Peyton Manning's statue that just went up a little while ago. And yeah, I'm here in Indianapolis, ready for the NFL Combine to kick off tomorrow morning. Sat with some luminaries on my flight into Indy, so that's always fun. Guys from Barstool were there, Jenny Vrenches from SI was there, all the stars. Duncan says none of this matters when he talks about the NFL Combine. Thanks for starting us off with that, Duncan. I tell you what, when I was a younger man, I was very much of that attitude, but I'm here to tell you a lot of it matters. Most of what we see doesn't matter a whole lot, but they're all parts of the jigsaw puzzle. They're all parts of the evaluation, the tools that the evaluators use to differentiate and to separate prospects. But a lot of what happens here in Indianapolis happens behind closed doors, away from the media's prying eyes, such as the interview process. All these guys, teams are allowed to interview up to 60 prospects in their time here in Indy. That goes on throughout the night, deep into the night, 1, 2, 3, even 3 in the morning. And then the medical checks. Everything that the Packers know about these guys, they have surmised from tape. This is their chance to really poke and prod and get their medical staff to take a look at each and every one of the guys here in Indianapolis. I love the Combine. Then again, I'm football obsessed and I'll be watching. Yeah, I think it's a great event for football obsessives, especially now that they've opened up a lot to the fans, so to speak. I'm sorry about the noise. I'm here on the street right outside the stadium, so you're going to hear trucks and whatnot. Well, and by everyone knows the rules. What's up, Jeff? Thanks for joining us. One little bit of information, a little nugget of news that got dropped a little earlier, about an hour ago, maybe a little less. Pro Football Talk reporting that the Packers' grievance that they filed trying to get back Martellus Bennett's bonus money has been thrown out by arbiter Stephen Burbank. So that attempt has failed, and they will not be getting any of the bonus money from Martellus Bennett. So that's the one little piece of news you got going on. Is Troy Fumagalli taking part in the Combine? The Packers need to land this guy. Dale, I believe he is. We'll know for sure later this week, but I know he's on the list, and I look forward to watching him. Thoughts on Mike Daniels' comments? I thought they were very telling. For anyone who doesn't know, Mike Daniels was interviewed a couple of different places on NFL Network this past week. He talked about it being like Christmas with Mike Pettin involved as the defensive coordinator, and he said he brings a much-needed culture change. They needed a culture change. Those were Mike Daniels' words. I mean, you can read into that what you will. My take is it's pretty clear that there was a lot of frustration with Capers down the stretch, especially the last few years. There's a decent collection of talent here. Obviously, it needs to be augmented this offseason, but there's no doubt that Daniels and others were feeling a lot of frustration there. Each player should pay a little each and get way hotter cheerleaders. That is the dumbest comment I have ever read on Facebook Live. What am I expected to see today? Not a thing. Nothing starts until tomorrow. But I always get here a day early, get revved up, get ready to go. Is Daniel's bark bigger than his bite? Ben, I don't think so. I know there are people in the media, there are fans, there are even members of his own team that think Daniels needs to talk less and play more, but I think the guy is an absolute beast. I think a lot of what he does doesn't get on SportsCenter, doesn't get put on highlight tapes. Eating up double teams or splitting double teams or taking on, pulling guards and knocking them into the ground. That stuff doesn't get you on the highlight reels, but it's essential work to make the defense go. And more often than not, he is doing the dirty work. I think one of the things he may be really excited about is the prospect of maybe getting to rush the passer a little bit more. That's something that he didn't get to do a whole heck of a lot under Capers and Turgovac. He was asked to do a lot of that said dirty work. But, with the new scheme, we'll see if they let him off the leash a little bit, so to speak. I'll watch SDU tight end. If you're talking about Dallas Goedert, I completely agree. I think that guy's going to be something special. Talib, not a good fit. Too much BS, says Preston. Well, I mean, let's see if he gets released. I doubt the Packers would move to even begin to think about trading for the guy. But if he becomes a free agent, I think they kind of have to put a call in. That's the kind of attitude they need on the defensive side of the ball. Are the trade talks with Cobb for real? Not that I've heard. I know there's been a lot of smoke around Clint Dix, Randall Cobb, what have you, but a lot of that is just people guessing, throwing darts. Does Mike Pettin have any say in the draftees? That's a really good question. I think he will definitely lay out what he wants, the kind of guy he's looking for at certain positions, things he covets, etc. But ultimately, that is the personnel group's call, and Brian Gutekunst gets final say. What about the combine experience do you most like? Honestly, seeing everyone from around the league in one spot for a very concentrated amount of time. For the next 4 days, I will run into people from all over, whether it's personnel guys, scouts, coaches, media members, prospects. They're out and about all hours of the day, all hours of the night throughout Indianapolis. It's like a convention, and you run into everybody, and you just learn a lot about football and the NFL while you're here. Trey Haha for the Steelers receiver. Josh, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I know CBS Sports had posited that early this week or late last week. That's not very realistic, I don't think. That's a writer trying to get some clicks, and I think he succeeded in that endeavor, but I don't think the Packers would realistically entertain that trade. Mostly because Martavis Bryant is one strike away from being suspended for a whole year. And that's not a chance they're going to give up talent at the safety spot to go get that. Packers will be first against the pass in 2018. That's a bold guess. Who's the best pass rusher coming out in your opinion? Harold Landry would be my estimation there. How great is that Peyton Manning statue behind you? It is so great. These people are here taking pictures of it. See? People come from far and wide to take pictures of the sheriff here in his natural habitat. When will you get to talk to the GM, the coaches? Tomorrow, Michael. Both Mike McCarthy and Brian Gutekunst will speak with the media tomorrow. The beat is having lunch with them in between their appearances. So it's going to be a lot of Mike McCarthy and a lot of Brian Gutekunst tomorrow. Rich Eisen, 40 time this year, over under 5.5 this year. Brian, I don't know, man. I think he's gotten kind of fat and happy. I'm going to go over. Who do you realistically want at pick 14? Well, I don't really want anyone. I'm always interested in who they'll select. I'm not rooting for them to take anybody in particular, but I'm still kind of warm to the idea of Vita Vea if he's there at 14. I know there's a lot of people against that idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. What time will they get on? Andy, I believe McCarthy's mid-morning, and then Gutekunst is after lunch. Any update on 42? No, Josh, nothing yet on Morgan Burnett. However, this week you have to think news will start to come out regarding what the Packers are thinking there. I don't expect Brian Gutekunst to tip his hand at all in that regard, either in public or with the media, but I don't doubt that he and or the Packers will meet with Burnett's representatives at some point here this week in Indianapolis, and you can bet Tom Silverstein, Ryan Wood, Michael Cohen, etc. will endeavor to get that information after that happens. Who do you think goes number one? I know everyone's saying Darnold. That makes a world of sense. If I'm the Browns, I take Baker Mayfield and I don't look back. I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with that idea, but I think he's QB1. Harold Landry is a bust. How can he be a bust? He hasn't even played it down yet. You people. Domofsky article on Randall, your thoughts on his contract? I thought Rob made some really good points there as far as whether to pick up Demarius Randall's fifth-year option. I would pick it up. I understand why they would have reticence to do so, but I really think he turned it around after the benching that Thursday night against Chicago. He played exceptionally well down the stretch. I'd lock him up for that fifth year and get him relatively cheaply. How much would Sammy Watkins net in the open market now that he's played for a few years? A lot of money, Mitchell. I don't believe the Packers will be in on that. He's going to get paid a boatload of money, and I don't see the Packers getting in any kind of bidding war, especially at wide receiver, after they just paid Devontae Adams. Bring Bo back to Wisconsin. That's a possibility. If they take Mayfield at 1, everyone will be fired. No, they all just get hired. Let's see, your thoughts on Bennett's decision. He needs Green Bay money. The Packers passed him on a physical. I understand the frustrations there. because he was very much seemingly shutting it down. But, you know, cutting him and trying to get his bonus money back because of a failure to disclose a previous injury, you passed him on a physical. And it's hard for me to have much sympathy for the Packers on this one. Hi, Colton. With King and Randall, do we really need to get a big-name cornerback? You know, it all depends on what you call big name, but I think you definitely need to upgrade from Devon House, because remember, Randall and King, this day and age, you know, Mike Pettin said as well, you are in nickel 75 to 80% of the time in this league, just due to the amount of speed that gets put on the field by offenses. You got to have at least 3 corners that can play as starters. King and Randall are going to be good, I think. I think King is going to continue to progress, bounce back from that shoulder injury. Randall played, like I said, exceptionally well down the stretch last year. You're still going to need somebody on the perimeter. You're probably going to keep Randall in the slot. Maybe you get Colvin and put him in the slot and bump Randall outside, but I think you got to keep Randall inside, which means you're going to need someone on the perimeter. So yes, big name, what have you, call it what you will, but I think they definitely need to upgrade on the perimeter, and most likely do so through free agency. Now maybe they do it through the draft. Maybe it's Josh Jackson at 14. Who knows? I'm not privy to their planning, obviously, but I think they definitely need to upgrade there. Raji returns. It's possible, Don. How does Aaron Rodgers feel when he is throwing? If I take him at his word, he feels fine. Feels great. That's what he said at the Super Bowl. Said everything's good. I mean, he's out there golfing. He's got to be doing all right. Who should the Packers be watching during the Combine? It's a good question, Jordan. I would say all the edge rushers, all the tight ends, and all the corners, which they will undoubtedly do. Why are you so sure about McCray? Because I watched every snap. Randall can't tackle. Neither could Dion. What's a bigger need, secondary or pass rush? Pass rush. And I know there are people who would quibble with that idea. I understand why, but to me, it's all about disruption up front. You can make do with a lot in your secondary if you can get the quarterback off the mark. The Philadelphia Eagles rolled that to the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, the secondary didn't exactly come to play in the Super Bowl itself, but they rode a fantastic front with a mediocre secondary all the way to the championship. Heather, Marcus Davenport. I know Michael Cohen just wrote a big piece on him for PackersNews.com. Make sure you check that out. I'm not sold. I know people love his athleticism, his upside. He's a huge guy, really super athletic. I think he's going to knock it out of the park here when he's asked to run and do all the testing, etc. I don't know. The level of competition scares me, and I'm not completely sold on him as even a first rounder, let alone a pick there at 14. But I know people love him, and I know there's a lot of split kind of ideas on him, and I think we're going to be talking about it all the way up to the draft in late April. We need to take a running back at 14. Woo! There's a new one. I would caution against that. Now, you never know what kind of talent's going to be there, who they have, rated as far as what their draft board says. I'm pretty fervently against taking running backs in the first round. I think the Packers and a lot of other teams have consistently showed you can get really good value and really good talents later on in the draft. Heck, even if it's the second round, I don't mind that. Look what they did with Eddie Lacy. But the first round, there's too many other pressing needs and too many other special athletes at those positions of need for me to sign off on them taking a running back. Now, watch them take a running back in round 1. Middle linebacker upgrade. Well, it depends on who you're calling a middle linebacker. If they switch Clay Matthews inside a predominant amount of the time, which they may do under Pettin, then they've got Matthews and Martinez in the middle there, and then they don't really need an upgrade, maybe a reinforcement of depth. But we'll see. We'll see how the offseason plays out. But I wouldn't discount it. If, say, Roquan Smith falls to 14, I think they should run the card up, but I don't think he's going to make it that far. But again, it's about adding talent. I don't think you have to box yourself in, but you want to get the talented players. Welcome to Indy. Thank you very much. Let's see. I like Arden Key at 14 for the Packers. Mike, I tell you what, I just started watching him in earnest last week, and I really, really like that kid. I like him a lot more than Davenport, I'll tell you that. I think either Arden Key or Harold Landry would be really good gets for the Packers at 14, but we'll see how they test here this week. All right, everybody, I'm going to jump. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. They do fly by rather fast, but I'll be here all week. I'll be live every day. I'll try and do a couple sessions a day if I can. I can't promise that I will be able to, but I'll definitely be here tomorrow, all throughout availability. Tomorrow's going to be very, very Packers-centric, seeing as both McCarthy and Gutekunst will be talking. So make sure you're checking Packers News for all the latest. Until tomorrow, you guys have a great night.